And talk about a long wait, Dixie Chicks, or should I say the Chicks? Why don't we
I'm
start
not
there,
bad.
actually? Um, what do you think about all this, like, name renaming, Lady Antebellum becoming Lady A, the Dixie Chicks becoming the Chicks?
hmm
How do you feel about these name changes?
Yeah, these are interesting to me because they're just references to past Southern history
Right.
that obviously greatly uh, negatively impacted the lives of the Black people in the South at the time, of course. But there's also like it kind of reminds. It's like the other thing with Gone with the Wind right now, right? It's like this whole
Mhm.
like romanticization of that period of time in the South, right? And see, I don't know, like the word antebellum, does that really need to immediately be thought of negatively? Dixie, I don't know. I thought they're kind of middling in terms of the offensive category. Like I can get it, like fine,
Mhm.
don't bother. That's fine. I think honestly, Lady Antebellum's name change,
Yeah.
Lady A, when there's already a long established artist named Lady A who happens to be black, and then they're actually
Mhm.
like suing that person over this. Um,
Ridiculous.
it sounds like you're being very performative and don't actually give a shit at all.
Yeah.
And that the Chicks, I mean, whatever. They've been the Dixie Chicks forever, so now they're just the artists formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. Like I don't
Right.
think anyone's gonna really call them the Chicks, but
Well,
I mean, who cares? They've been around forever. It doesn't really matter.
it's funny. Like I told, actually, I think you said it perfectly, and I totally agree on Lady Antebellum. The way that they're going about their name change is absolutely ridiculous. If it really means that much that you don't want to be Lady Antebellum, but you also really want to be Lady A, like take a look at what you're actually doing here. The the Dixie Chicks, however, have been kind of cast out of country music in a sense since
Yeah.
2006 after their critique of George Bush
Yep.
invading Iraq. Actually, that was 2003, and then they
Yep.
really got a lot of backlash from that. They made I forgot the name of the album. I had it just down here a second ago. Back in 2006, which they won a couple of Grammys for.
Taking the long way.
Yes, taking the long way. Obviously, the song "Don't Want to Back Down" or "Not Ready to Back Down." It was the big hit from that. I remember seeing that on a lot of award shows at the time, and that was kind of like their rock album in a sense, and kind of solidified their move away from country. So for them to drop this this piece of their name that kind of is associated with country music in some sense, and whether that makes sense or not either, that Dixie and country music go together, who knows. I think their name change makes a lot of sense because they've been kind of moving
Mhm.
away, and this album Gaslighter, the first one in 14 years for this band, really seems like the perfect time to change the name because this album is just their pop album, right? I mean, they're teaming up with Jack Antonoff, our
Guess
guy,
who?
yeah, who, I mean, has been just like hitting dingers every time he's out there. We talked about him collaborating with Taylor Swift, Lord, um, Lana Del Rey. Like
Yep.
he
That's the
really
victory.
is, he's really just been putting out hit after hit. I feel like he missteps here a little bit, but I feel like maybe that's because this album is so much just a divorce album. Like this is Natalie Maine just putting her heart out on the record completely raw. And I think some of these songs feel really exciting and fun and or heartfelt, and some of them feel, I think, a little childish, and then some of them feel a little cookie cutter. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like they kind of all fall into like either like really fun like pop country song or like soft ballad or like stripped down acoustic like thoughtful song, but like there's not really much in between from there. How are you feeling about Gaslighter as the
Yeah.
Dixie Chicks return?
Yeah. It is funny to see and hear them collaborate with Jack because it's like, did you guys really need this? Like, you already have enough juice coming into this as the comeback album, the first album in 14 years. There's so much baggage they are bringing to this album and this cycle
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know if they need any like creative help. I think it's fine. It'll take care of itself in that regard. But partially because it's a work of Jack, this is just compulsively listenable the entire time. It's
Yeah.
so inoffensive, right? So it's like you don't have to be a country fan because it's like the lightest possible country flair, right? Which is funny because that is also quite similar to a lot of successful country these days, which is much more country pop than anything else, right? I think of like someone who has cited the Chicks as a huge influence, Maren Morris, right? And Maren Morris is also someone who has followed their lead in being outspoken about what she believes in after country music as an industry for the longest time was very closed off in what they would tolerate, especially from women. So, you know, in that sense, I think it's quite a success, but it also by design is not nearly as ambitious as some other past work. And again, I think that's fine because it's a comeback album. It's more like a reset more than anything else. So
yeah, I totally agree, and it's interesting too because part of what caused this layoff, you know, Maine moved to LA to be with Adrian Pasdar from Heroes. That's who this album is about. He actually tried to get this album to stop the release because he felt like it might have infringed upon a prenuptial agreement. And he didn't want some of the details coming out that are shared in here. But they also were feuding with Sony, which it was their production company, and had caused a lot of issues for them. And the original thought was they're going to come back, do just like a cover album, and get out of the deal because they only had one more album left. And then Maine got divorced, and she had a lot more to say and started writing more. I find it really interesting because they brought in some heavy hitting songwriters to help them with this. You have Julia Michaels on, I think, 3 or 4 songs here. You have Teddy Geiger showing up for a song. Antonoff's all over this. You even have St. Vincent, Annie Clark, coming on to help with Young Man near the end. I mean, there's some heavy hitters, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you can really feel Michael's influence on the songs that she's on. I feel like she really played a big part in shaping a song like, let me just find my notes here. Oops, further down than I expected.
I mean, having Julia Michaels and Jack Antonoff help you on the same record is in itself a big flex because they're two of the like whisperers in the mainstream music business that continue to get tons of work because of how talented writers and producers they are.
Yeah, and like I was saying, Texas Man, Tights on My Boat, like some of those songs will hit you to varying degrees, but they're catchy as hell. And like, you know, then you put in like the pop, like drum sound and that like little twanging banjo. And it just feels infectious, a lot of it. And I thought this was a great listen, a bit inconsistent at times. And I felt like they're getting their footing back, but just a really, in general, a fun listen. What was your reference to the Chicks going into this? Like, were you familiar with any of their past work?
Really had not listened to their music much at all. I just knew the story and the blow up and all that followed. Really, I'm curious how longtime fans feel about this album. You know, in a sense, it's probably not a new feeling for most people to have a band or group artists that you like and have liked for a long time. Inevitably, they will sound different. It's just the way it goes when you make music for a long enough time. But you know, maybe there are people that were hotly anticipating this for 14 years, then this is not quite as country as they wanted, or doesn't quite hit actually as hard as they wanted. I don't know.
You know, it's funny. I've been somewhat aware of like the Dixie Chicks and probably like their biggest songs. And I went back and I gave a couple of the deeper cuts some listens, and it's interesting because I think the song that people probably know them most for is their cover of Landslide, which, I mean, that's a 50-year-old song now. It's not anything new. And then you think about the songs of theirs that really do stand out, things like Not Ready to Make Nice or Wide Open Spaces or was it Goodbye Earl, Cowboy Take Me Away. Like these songs are songs that if you listen to the Chicks you probably know, but they're not songs that have ever really grabbed the zeitgeist. So to like see them have this comeback and to really, I feel like, get a lot of recognition and acclaim. I saw quite a few people talking about them on Twitter on Friday and over the weekend. I find it interesting because I feel like they hold a very interesting space in popular culture, you know, because they have moved away from that original sound. They've really evolved. They're really into like a third act of their career almost in a sense. It's very, very interesting to see. Um, Anything on here that you really wanted to shout out or that you really liked?
I think my favorite song was "Tights on the Boat." Tights on my boat. That was pretty
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, definitely. And you can kind of hear Maine kind of like smirking at that. Did you like the title track?
Oh, that was my other one. Yeah, I like Gaslighter a lot.
Yeah,
Like I
I
said, just about all of it's very easy to listen to.
yeah, I think Gaslighter's the real banger off this, and we added that to the playlist already. I mean, I also think a song like or at least the end of March March feels very much more like old school Dixie Chicks. I thought Texas Man was pretty good, and Sleep at Night was also really good. I guess I like the beginning of the album now that I'm looking through the track list. Dixie Chicks, man, check out their song Gaslighter on our Nowstalgia Best of 2020 playlist.